What is up, everybody? Matt here today to talk about the very strange case of the Sgt. Pepper movie. The Sgt. Pepper movie was a movie that came out in 1978 and basically tried to pull a story out of the Sgt. Pepper album. And now I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, so let's go ahead and back up to the beginning of this story. In 1974, there was a musical off-Broadway called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band on the Road. It was produced by a guy by the name of Robert Stigwood. Stigwood was a famous producer, music impresario. He produced things like Grease, Saturday Night Fever, Tommy, Jesus Christ Superstar, Hair, Evita, Sweeney Todd. That show ran for about 66 performances in New York, and some of them even John Lennon attended. In 1978, Robert Stigwood's organization, RSO, would purchase that script and decide to make a film version based on that play. For the leads, they got Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees, two artists at the time who were probably the biggest stars out there. The Bee Gees had Saturday Night Fever, Peter Frampton had his Alive album. Robert Stigwood, Peter Frampton, and the Bee Gees had actually all worked together before on Grease, the main theme. Frampton plays guitar, and then obviously the Bee Gees do the vocals. Michael Schultz was hired to direct. Michael Schultz was known for directing Car Wash and the awesome 80s film The Last Dragon. Awesome movie, check it out. George Martin, the actual Beatles producer, the man himself, was hired to be the music supervisor on the soundtrack. The idea when they made the movie was to mix old school MGM musicals with the flair of the 1970s, and I gotta admit, they kinda succeeded at least in that part. It didn't work out well, but you can definitely tell that those two elements are there. In addition to Frampton and the Bee Gees, they also had a laundry list of special performers on this album and in the film. You had Billy Preston, who played a magical weather vane who came to life. You had Earth, Wind & Fire as themselves performing an awesome version of Got to Get You Into My Life. You had Alice Cooper as one of the villains. He sings an amazing version of Because. You had Steve Martin in there as Dr. Maxwell. Aerosmith played the main villain in the movie, and they do their amazing cover of Come Together on there. You had Donald Pleasence playing the evil record executive. Donald Pleasence, most people know him as, of course, the Dr. Loomis in the Halloween series. And then you had George Burns playing Mr. Kite, and he gets to sing Fixing a Hole. It's not good. No. But there's a lot about this thing that is not good. So now that I've given you some background on the film itself, let's talk about the plot of the film. It's about 2 hours of total nonsense. I really can't describe it. The basic plot, if you could even call it that, is there are magical musical instruments that are played by a group called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and through the years it changes members until we get to the 70s. Basically, they go on this magical journey where they are corrupted by the evils of studio executives. Aerosmith wants to steal the instruments because they're evil for some reason. People die, they come back to life. It's just all over the place. The film is absolutely bizarre, to say the least. There's robots, there's clowns, there's parades, there's mustard for some reason. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. Really the best advice I can give you, and I really don't want to give it to you, is for you to watch the film yourself. I pain myself having to tell you that, but that's the only way that you could really, quote-unquote, understand what's going on in the movie. So a little bit of trivia for you folks here on the film production itself. Originally, Kiss was going to be the main villain, not Aerosmith. I don't know why in particular that deal fell through, but it would have been amazing to see that. Alice Cooper was actually in rehab at the time of filming. He got a special day pass, shot his stuff, recorded his song, and went back to detox. All the film's dialogue is narration by George Burns. The reason for that is officially was given that most of the lead actors had accents, and the film is supposed to take place with an American band, and obviously that wouldn't work. But it's also been speculated that because nobody in the film could act, so they just did that with George Burns and called it good. About 2 weeks into the production, the Bee Gees wanted out of the project. The Bee Gees would blame this film for their rapid decline in the United States. The Bee Gees also said that cocaine was everywhere. Robert Stigwood said that he wanted this film to be his generation's Gone with the Wind. So what exactly did the Beatles themselves think of this film? Well, Paul and Ringo actually went to the premiere, but later shunned the film, and John and George just flat out refused to see it. So they did not give it a passing grade. So what about the album itself? It's probably worth maybe one listen altogether. But outside of that, it's pretty much absolute garbage. There's a reason you find this constantly in bargain bins, and unless you're a Beatles fan, you really don't have a reason to have this. The only reason to get it, in my opinion, would be for the tracks by Alice Cooper, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind & Fire, and Billy Preston. But outside of that, it's an absolute mess of an album. It's a good conversation piece, and I gotta admit the cover is actually pretty cool, but outside of that, it sounds like a really just bloated 70s musical where they tried to replicate the sound of the Beatles. And, you know, I don't blame them for that. You know, they obviously thought it was a good idea. They tried, and the lesson is never try. No, it's an interesting experiment, you know, and it's interesting to note as well that Shout Factory, the DVD company, is coming out with a Blu-ray of this film, and I'm actually pretty excited because Shout has incredible special features on most of their DVDs and Blu-rays, so I'm very excited to see what they have on this one. So we will see what happens with that. Outside of that, that's pretty much all I have to say about the strange case of the Sgt. Pepper movie. I will see you guys next time.